Yo, what up, it's Carter, and tonight I wanted to film the Nervous Before a Date survival guide, all right? Something that I think a lot of guys can relate to, can resonate with, and something that I fucking wish that I had before I went on, the first date that I ever had with a girl when I was younger, all right? But something, nerves before a date, it was something that plagued me really until a couple of years ago. And, I would go on dates and I would take notes and I would analyze, why did I feel so nervous? Can I stop this from happening again? What made me feel nervous? What did I do right? What did I, not do right? And I would analyze my dates over and over and over again so that I could essentially reach some point of clarity within myself, because I was just sick of dealing with this fucking problem. Being super nervous before a date, you're about to go on a date with a chick, you see her walking out to your car, you're about to pull up, and you just want to control how you feel, you want to change how you feel, but you just can't fucking stand it. How do you stop that from happening on a reoccurring fucking basis? All right, that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. I'm not only going to be giving you mindsets and strategies to deal with it short term. So maybe you're watching this, I imagine this is going to hit a broader audience. Maybe you're going to watch this right before you go on a date. So maybe you want to skip exactly to the section where I give you, basically on-the-go strategies to deal with the nerves. But also I'm going to be giving you some strategies that are going to help you leading up to the date to help reduce the nerves. And I'm going to be giving you strategies and explaining how to reduce this from happening again and again long term. All right, because again, what I'm going to be sharing with you in this video, it's going to be a little bit counterintuitive. Just do it just do it, take my word for it, get the results for yourself, all right? So as in all my videos, what I like to do is I write down, these fucking fools in the background. As in all my videos, what I like to do is I like to write down some fucking notes so that I can get you some solid results, all right? We're going to get a little bit information dense in this video. That's totally fine. But the point is to get you results, all right? So let's get right into it, all right? So, suppressed feelings, all right? Why do you feel nervous on the date in the first place? It's due to suppressed feelings. This comes from Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender, a fucking fantastic book that you can read by David R. Hawkins. All right, Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender. It's a book that essentially, it explains to you, why your self-esteem's fucked up, why you feel nervous around people, and it tells you that the cause of that inner conflict, the cause of those nerves while you're on that date is due to suppressed feelings that you've inherited and you've accumulated throughout your childhood. You see, what happens is throughout childhood, when we have certain experiences that happen to us that invoke intense emotions, feelings of rejection, feelings of inferiority, what happens is because they're too intense to deal with as a kid, what we do is we avoid them or we suppress them, all right, because we don't want to fucking deal with them, or we don't know how to deal with them as a kid. And so what happens is we start to accumulate a reservoir of these suppressed feelings, and then in social situations or where we're about to go meet somebody that we view as being outside of our league, what happens is those feelings of inferiority, they bubble back up to the surface and they start to fuck with you in the moment, all right? They start to fuck with you in the moment. So that's what the nervousness is. It's these suppressed feelings that you have inside of you coming back up to the surface, all right? That's what's causing the friction. That's what's causing the nerves, rather. And I know this from experience as well, not just from a book, because I coach on this one-on-one, but I've also used this in my own life. I used to be super nervous before dates. Now I don't get fucking nervous at all before dates. And even if I do get nervous, if I feel a little bit of nerves, I know how to deal with it on the spot, all right? So essentially, that's where it comes from. It's suppressed feelings, all right? They're bubbling back up to the surface. And the other thing to understand is that throughout your life, you form an image of yourself, all right? This is called your self-image, all right? And your self-image is essentially, this is who I am, this is what I fucking deserve, this is what I don't deserve. I deserve this type of woman, I don't deserve this type of woman. And what happens is we form this self-image because it's a very primal animalistic reflex that we have. We form a self-image because we're always trying to stay congruent to the way that we see ourselves so that we don't ask for anything that is outside of our range, right? So essentially, nerves spike up and tell us to shut down and to basically box up, clam up when we're around people who we view as being outside of our league, because we come from an animal environment in which, we grew up in basically 25 to 50 person tribes, 100,000 years ago. And if you asked for too much or you asked for shit that was outside of your range, what would happen is you know, you might get killed in that tribe, right? So if you go and talk to a girl who's outside of your range, outside of what you think you deserve or what you did deserve back in that environment, and that was the alpha male of the tribe's girl, what could happen is you could get fucking killed or you could get thrown out of the tribe. All right, so these feelings, they really bubble up. These suppressed feelings, they bubble up due to the fact that we've suppressed them and they're still there and they bubble up in the moment, but also, again, due to the fact that we have this self-image which tells us what we do and don't deserve. All right, so when we're in the presence of somebody who we think we're not deserving of, we feel those nerves. When we're about to go on a date, we feel nervous. It's because on some level, all right, you're going to be experiencing this. If you're experiencing these nerves or you're anticipating experiencing these nerves, on some level, you do not feel deserving. You do not feel worthy of the girl that you're going out with, all right? So that's why the nerves are there in the first place, all right? It's suppressed feelings. It's a self-image that's basically telling you you're inferior and, you know, you need to perform in order to get this person to like you, in order to get this woman to like you, all right? So that is really, you know, what it is. When we have an inferiority complex or self-image that is very, you know, it's very low, it's very kind of like you're a fucking worm or you're not as attractive as this girl that you're about to hang out with, right? It can be subtle. It can be like you feel way less attractive. It can feel like you feel just a little bit less attractive, whatever it may be. When you have that type of self-image, it basically makes you kind of freak out and then fixate on getting approval, right? The fixation becomes getting approval, avoiding friction, just so that you can survive at all costs, right? Again, it's not rational, right? But that mechanism of our mind, it's not updated to 2025. It's still old school, and it's still, you know, back in the past, all right? So that self-image, it tells us to perform. Right? It tells us to perform, makes us freak out, it makes us clam up, it makes us get shut in our head and fixate on getting that approval. All right? So the first thing that I want you to do is I want you to introduce, or want to introduce you rather to the fact that, you know, you want to let go of the performance mentality. All right? And this is just a mindset. I'm going to get into the actual strategies that you're going to apply on the date. But the first thing that I want you to understand is that performance anxiety is a real thing. If you feel inferior to a chick, or if you feel like you have to do things like techniques or methods or memorize a bunch of different mindsets on a date, what's going to happen is you're going to go into your head, and it's going to basically stop you from connecting to that girl. You're going to get shoved in your head, you're going to get awkward, you're going to get quiet, you're going to run out of things to say because you're too busy trying to execute a technique or act through a persona in order to get approval. All right, so the first thing that I want you to understand is that you can be attractive, you can attract that girl and have an amazing date, you know, without performing at all. All right, without performing at all, you can actually achieve that. All right, so, you know, what a lot of guys try to do who feel inferior to the women that they're about to go on a date on with is they try to memorize like all these different things to do or ways of being, or, you know, like, oh, I got to act like this, I got to act like that. And what I want you to understand is that, you know, as somebody that coaches this for a living and who's been studying evolutionary psychology, consciousness, social dynamics since I was 13 years old, for almost a decade now, is that you can be attractive despite your energy level, right? So you can be high energy, you can be low energy, you can be, you know, imperfect, right? You can still have flaws and show up to the date and still create attraction. But the fact that, you know, and this is really what I want you to aim for, the fact that you're able to be comfortable in the moment is what that's going to be the driver of the attraction. All right, it's the fact that you're going to be able to be present to the moment and say, hey, you know what, fuck all that shit. I don't need to do anything in order to, you know, get love. I don't need to perform for it in any way, shape, or form. So what you're going to be aiming for on this date is presence. All right, I want you to get present to the moment. Stop going inside of your head, fishing for the right thing to say or the right thing to do. Stop trying to act through a persona. All right, stop trying to act through a persona. Again, you can be attractive, you know, despite being high energy, low energy, despite having your flaws. But the fact that, you know, and this is what I want you to aim for again, but if you can get present to the moment on that date, right, and you can allow that other shit in your mind to fall by the wayside, it's very attractive because it tells that chick everything that she needs to know about you. All right, the fact that you can get present to the moment and, you know, not be in your head in a technique, not be in your head in a persona, that conveys a shit ton of self-confidence, right? Because who the fuck is this guy to let all that stuff fall by the wayside and just put himself out there, flaws and all, right? Despite his mood, despite his energy, he still assumes that, you know, I could like him for him, right? That displays a shit ton of self-confidence, which creates a shit ton of attraction, all right? And that tells her everything that she needs to know about you. All right. So let go of performance mentality, let go of, and I have other videos on this where I divulge in this, but if you are sitting there telling yourself that you have to perform in order to create attraction, it's going to create a shit ton of inner resistance and inner anxiety, which you just don't want to deal with. All right. So what I want you to aim for on the date, first and foremost, is presence. All right, because that is what is going to communicate a shit ton of self-confidence. The fact that you're willing to put yourself out there, despite the fact that you might have flaws, despite the fact that you might be in a mood or whatever it may be, just act as you are, get present to the moment. All right. So another thing that can help you before the date is to let go of the worst possible outcome, or to be okay with the worst possible outcome. All right. Maybe you don't get the chick's approval. Maybe the date goes terribly wrong. Be okay with the worst case scenario. It's not that big of a deal. All right. This takes a shit ton of pressure off of you. What I want you to do is this: picture the worst case scenario, whatever that is to you. All right. Just picture the worst case scenario. What I want you to do is picture that. And again, this is a little bit out there, but just do it. I explain this more in other videos where I talk about letting go, which is how I coach guys to heal their self-esteem, let go of suppressed feelings that create this self-image, a sense of inferiority. And what I want you to do is just picture that, and then I want you to feel what that feels like in the moment. Feel the nerves that bubble up when you see that worst case scenario, all right? And all I want you to do is just sit with those feelings and allow them to be there, okay? You can do this for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and all I want you to do is picture the worst case scenario enough times to where when you picture it, there's nothing. There's no response, and you're just cool with it. You're like, yep, if it goes bad, it is what it is. If it goes great, that's great too. When you get to that point, that is going to facilitate your ability to actually be present to the moment on that date. That's going to reduce a lot of that inner conflict, a lot of those nerves on that date. All right, so be okay with the worst case scenario. Guys, if you don't get a girl's approval, it's not the end of the world. If a date doesn't work out with a certain girl, it's not the end of the world. What I teach you on this channel is how to recreate dates, by actually raising your self-esteem, raising your self-confidence, so it's something that's repeatable, right? So it's something that's repeatable, all right? So be okay with the worst case scenario. It's not that bad. And also recognize that, we're talking about nerves here, and I'm talking about aiming for presence. Recognize, because what we do is we think to ourselves, we start to feel nervous, or we anticipate that we'll feel nervous, and we think that's going to make us fuck up the date. Guys, what I want you to recognize is that, and I know this because I've gone on a shit ton of dates with chicks, in my age group, the bar is fucking low. If you can be even 10% present to the moment with a chick, that is fucking spectacular. Girls are not used to that. Girls are used to guys showing up on dates being fucking weird, being dense, being trapped in their head. A girl's main concern on a date is not some superficial thing. It's you not putting her head on a pike, right? For girls, it's very nerve-wracking to go on dates. Her main concern is that you're just a normal guy, that you're not going to fucking kill her, all right? Because the bar is that low. A lot of guys are really weird. A lot of guys are really trapped in their head. That's the average. That's the norm. So even being 10% present to the moment on a date and allowing your real self to shine through naturally, because when you're present, that's real self-expression shining through. Even doing that 5-10%, you're going to be fine. You can still create attraction. So if you haven't fully let go of the nerves before the date, or if you're not feeling 100% calm and present before the date, you can still create attraction. There are many dates that I went on where I still felt a little bit nervous, and the dates went great. All right, so recognize that you don't need to be perfect, okay? Now, another thing that you can do before the date, before we get into what to actually do on the date itself, is let go of, glamorizing the woman, putting her on a pedestal, all right? What causes a lot of the performance anxiety on a logical level, and again, this is also due to feelings, right, which we let go of, and I teach people how to let go of this long term, but just in the short term, when you have a shit ton of desire towards attracting a certain girl or having a date go well, that can create a lot of inner tension. That can create a lot of inner reaching where it's like you really want it to work, all right? In order to let go of that and to reduce the intensity of that desire, which is going to really, again, cause you to get nervous, is to be, it's to essentially stop glamorizing the woman. Stop putting her on a pedestal, and stop, making her somebody whose approval you need to audition for. That's going to create nerves. That's going to create performance anxiety. What you need to do is realize that, look, chicks get nervous too, all right? when you're watching these types of videos, you're usually going to be the type of guy, and I know from experience, you're usually going to be the type of guy who you always make yourself wrong and other people right. You're always chasing approval. You're always trying to come off as attractive or do the right thing or say the right thing. And it's really degrading on your self-esteem, and it's debilitating. And what I want you to realize, just logically, and again, I kind of teach, this is just a start, this is more of just a mindset. You get there through letting go long term, which I coach on and which I have videos on. I have an 1.5-hour course on letting go. You can watch for free. But just on a mindset level, a logical level, take the chick off a pedestal. Stop glamorizing her. Stop making her this perfect being who she doesn't get nervous and she never feels unattractive. Have you ever stopped and thought to yourself, what if she's thinking about impressing you? What if she's thinking about, oh, am I going to get nervous and fuck it up? What if she's thinking about, oh, how am I going to do or say the right thing to make it work with this guy? Have you ever stopped and thought that for a moment? If not, it's because you're probably glamorizing the girl. You're putting her on a pedestal, and you're just creating this, scenario in which, you have to slay this dragon. Guys, it's just a date with another human being. All right. When you really reflect on that and you kind of dismantle that glamorization that you're doing, the desire decreases naturally, because you're not sitting there longing for that date to really work out. All right. You're not needing it to work out. Okay. That can really help before the date. All right. So what do you actually do on the date? Maybe you skip to this part of the video because you're about to go on a date. The first thing that I want you to recognize is that any and all feelings, like nervousness, they have a shelf life. All right, and this is based on the philosophy described in Letting Go, the Pathway of Surrender, which teaches you to let go of suppressed feelings and nerves and things that come up in the moment. The thing that you want to understand is that all feelings have a shelf life. So by letting go of or letting go of resistance to a feeling, and when you allow yourself to experience it fully, it'll dissipate. So maybe you're very nervous, before that date. Allow those feelings and those nerves to be there. Trying to change them, control them, resist them, it keeps them active. All right, and this is the first thing that I want you to understand. Whatever you resist persists. If you're resisting something, be sure as shit that it's going to persist. That feelings of those nerves are going to persist. All right, a lot of time we get nervous. We're like, fuck, this is going to fuck my date up. Then we resist the resistance towards the nervousness. It's like this self-perpetuating cycle. Allow the nerves to be there. Allow the nerves to be there before the date and on the date, right? Especially on the date, if you're feeling nervous on the date. Allow the nerves to be there, and naturally you will simmer down. Naturally you will calm down. But if you resist those nerves, if you try to change them, if you try to escape them, they will perpetuate, and the nerves will just get out of control. It'll be like a downward spiral. You get more and more trapped in your head. You'll get more and more anxious. So don't resist the nerves. Allow them to be there. All right? Allow them to be there. Whatever you resist persists. And then this is another key thing. I used to tell myself this all the time before I go on dates. Don't force a relaxed state of presence and self-expression, right? That presence of the moment, space that I was telling you to aim for. Don't force it. Allow it to arise. All right? When you're present, the real self shines through. The attraction's automatic. All right? The attraction's automatic. Okay? But you can't force that. You can't force yourself to be relaxed. You can't force yourself to get present to the moment. What happens is when you stop resisting the nerves, and when you stop resisting those suppressed feelings that are bubbling up to the surface, now that you're in this situation, eventually they dissipate, and you naturally get more relaxed, and you naturally start to express yourself more, crack jokes more, tell stories more, be out of your head, be yourself, quote unquote. It doesn't take as much effort. You're relaxing. You're actually connecting to the girl instead of fighting against yourself. You can't force that. Do not force it, all right? Don't force it. Don't force it. Allow it to arise. Allow it to arise by dropping away the resistance towards the current feelings of discomfort and nervousness, all right? And when you get to that place that I talk with you about of quote-unquote present self-expression, that is where you're going to experience deep connection, with that woman on that date. And you're going to experience, her getting really attracted to you, all right? Because as you get more and more present, your real self shines through. You're no longer fighting against yourself. You have access to who you actually are. And then you can effortlessly project that into the interaction and give that girl an opportunity to either take it or leave it. All right, but you can't do that when you're in your head, because she's only getting to know a front, a persona, a performance, something that you're acting through, but not the real thing. All right, so what I recommend is aim for that presence, because then you're going to be able to actually present yourself as you are without premeditating it, without, again, acting through a persona, that's what's going to allow the girl to either really like you or not like you. What happens a lot is we go on dates, we act through a persona, and then as a result, you know, we can't be the best at a persona because that's not us. As a result, the girl only kind of likes us. She doesn't really like us that much. When you stop acting through the persona, what happens is you get to lean into your quirky personality, your unique sense of humor, right? All the things that make you you. And that gives that chick an opportunity to actually really like you for you. That creates a deep sense of attraction if it's there, if the chemistry's there. But additionally, you get to connect with her at a deeper level because it's not a front, it's not a persona that's connecting, right? It's her real self, your real self connecting. And as the chick sees you being present, as the chick sees you not making a big deal of things, she's also going to be inspired to do the same. It's going to reduce her nerves. And it's just overall going to create a fucking solid date. All right? So overall, that's the survival guide. That's what I'd recommend for you. That's pretty much everything that I used over my years working on this area of my life to get where I'm at now. I got a beautiful girlfriend at home. She just actually texted me. You probably heard the ding go off. Dinner's ready. So I'm going to bounce out of here. Apply these strategies on your date. Apply them before your date. All right? And last thing, long term, how do you deal with them? Long term, you practice letting go to raise your self-esteem and to diminish that inferiority complex. All right, you let go of the suppressed feelings, and it's something that I don't really have the time tonight to talk with you about, but it's something that I cover in one-to-one coaching that I do, paid coaching, but also I have an hour-and-a-half free course on letting go, which can get you started as well. All right, so that's how you deal with it long term, right? That's how you get this to stop happening long term, okay? So with that being said, I want to thank you so much for being here tonight. As always, I will see you in the next video.